Welcome to The Classical Mind, a podcast about the great books in the Western canon. We're your hosts. I'm Father Wesley Walker.
And I'm Dr. Junius Johnson.
And today we are here to do a year end bonus episode. We like to do one kind of episode, or sometimes in the past we've done newsletter editions about some of the favorite books that we've read this year. Usually books not connected to the Classical Mind reading list, so things we're reading kind of above and beyond that. And so what we've decided is we'll each do five, and we can go kind of in alternating order. Now, just out of curiosity, Junius, about how many books a year do you think you read?
Many fewer than you would think that I read, um, because I'm busy with other things as well. I don't, a lot of times I'm just reading, I'm reading to prep for classes and then I'm reading before bed. But with young kids at home and with, traveling, giving talks and things, a lot of times it's hard to fit things in. So I probably don't read more than about 15 or 20 books a year.
Interesting. That is surprising to me.
Yeah.
Okay, well, out of those 10, 15, 20 books a year, uh, what was your fifth favorite?
Oh, we're ranking them that way?
Well,
Ugh.
that's how I did
Curse
mine.
you.
If you
It's
want to just
fine.
give us five, that's
You know
okay.
what? It's fine. Whatever. Just as long as, it's this is what they're going to be today. And if you ask me again tomorrow, maybe the order is different. Um, I think then I'm going to go with, and okay, so listen, Father Wesley said usually not associated, but sometimes a book associated with the classical mind list makes such an impression that you have to put it on the list. And that this year was one of those years for me. And so my number five pick is Frankenstein, because Frankenstein completely, one of the things that makes a book that makes my list is that it catches me off guard with how good it is. Not just that it's
Mm,
good, but I'm sort of, it compels me to be like, dude, look how good I am. And I'm like, I know, right? And Frankenstein did that for me. I was expecting not to like it because I had all these preconceptions about it that were entirely wrong. And I was not only pleased to be wrong about what it was like, I was also really blown away by the depth of it, by the subtlety of it, by the atmosphere of the thing, the beauty of the writing. Just really, really loved it. So Frankenstein for me, number five.
excellent. Okay, my fifth book of the year is The Meaning of Christian Brotherhood by Joseph Ratzinger, who became
Mm.
Pope Benedict the 16th. One of my classes this year was on uh, Benedict, and I really, really enjoyed the class, enjoyed getting to know Benedict a little bit better. And that book is really good. What does it mean? What does brotherhood mean? He kind of starts with a survey of the conceptions of brotherhood in the pagan classical world, and moves into modern understandings of it, post Enlightenment, Marxist understandings and things like that, and juxtaposes all of these against a kind of Christian conception of brotherhood, which I think is a really beautiful vision. And it's a short book, but it's very dense. And like most things that he wrote, you have to read. I had to read paragraphs, multiple times before I fully appreciated what he was doing in that paragraph.
Mm.
But yeah, really, really enjoyed it, and found it to be really helpful. So, The Meaning of Christian Brotherhood by Ratzinger.
All right. So for me at number four, I'm going to go with it. And I think for the rest of my list, until I get to number one, they're all rereads. Um, because I've been rereading a lot of stuff this year. One of the I suppose tenets of my creed as a reader is that anything worth reading is worth reading twice. And and just like, when I watch a movie, I don't know fully what I think of it until I've seen it twice. I certainly come away with it. I know I liked it the first time through, or I didn't like it, but I don't know how much, and I can't really rank it to other movie experiences until I've seen it the second time, because you can't really judge what's happening in something until you know the whole of it,
Mm.
right? Like there's so many times it happens to me is that I'm watching a movie, I feel like the pacing is all wrong. And I get to the end, I think, man, that section was too long and blah, blah, blah. And then I go back and watch it a second time and it feels just right because now I know how it relates to everything else that comes and how important it is or not and whatever else. And I think the same thing is true for books. There's some sense in which obviously you enjoy it as you're reading it. I'm not saying the first read doesn't count, and that you aren't learning deep things. And the more practiced a reader you are, the more you're learning each time you read through. But there's a real sense in which, you can't really pick up on foreshadowing and the interweaving that happens from beginning, middle, and end until you know beginning, middle, and end. So this has been a year where I've really been intentionally going back to a lot of books and rereading other books. And so these are all going to be, a lot of them are going to be rereads. And so this one sitting at number four for me is Phantastes by George MacDonald, which is just fantastic with a PH. I really loved it. I got to teach it again this year. I always enjoy teaching it because it's one of those books that you just you can pick any page and just start digging down with your interpretive trowel and you're going to hit gold. And for me, when I read a book like that, it's natural that I want to talk to other people about it. I want to share the things that I'm seeing, and teaching is a great way to do that. So, um, if there's anybody listening who hasn't read George MacDonald's Phantastes, you absolutely want to do that, especially as we're going to talk about Lilith very soon here. We can make it sort of a little George MacDonald month, and you won't regret it.
Excellent. I know my wife has. I've never read Phantastes. I know I need to, but I haven't read it. But my wife loves it. So
She's a wise woman.
yes, she is. She is much wiser than me. Though somehow not wise enough that she ended up marrying me. So do that math.
Well, that's the whole scam of marriage that men have been pulling off for millennia.
Very true. Very true. Okay, so my fourth book is a Civil War book. I love to read about the Civil War, and had two that I was trying to decide between. So I'll give a shout out to the one I didn't choose, which is Longstreet, the Confederate General Who Defied the South by Elizabeth
Hmm.
R. Varron, which was a very good book about a general who's much maligned by lost cause mythology folks. Um, because after the war, he became a Republican and very involved in Reconstruction, even led an integrated police force against a sort of white mob that opposed
Hmm.
the election of a Reconstructionist government in Louisiana. And so, quite a 180. And because of that 180, was often criticized by his colleagues who had served with him during the war. Much of Gettysburg was blamed on Longstreet, even though he actually was sort of one who cautioned Lee against making some of the decisions that he made. So that was a fascinating book. That is not my fourth pick. My fourth pick is On Great Fields by The Life and Unlikely Heroism of Joshua Lawrence Chamberlain by Ronald C. White.
Hmm.
For those of you who don't know, Chamberlain was a scholar at Bowdoin College in Maine, who ended up fighting for Maine in the Civil War, and was the colonel at the time who led the Union to hold Little Round Top at the Battle of Gettysburg.
Hmm.
But he is, as the title would imply, an unlikely hero because of his sort of scholarly tendencies. He wasn't really a soldier in the traditional sense, but he would often quote like poetry just to remind the men that they weren't savages or barbarians, and was a very, very intelligent man. Ended up after the war serving as the governor of Maine and then the president of Bowdoin College, and so just a fascinating biography, a
Hmm.
full life, a life with that really prized intellectual ventures and things, and so I really enjoyed that book, and I enjoyed Chamberlain quite a bit. So
Hmm.
On Great Fields.
Right. So that brings me to number three. This is another reread. I'm pretty sure that, well, the last time I read this was when probably 2018, something like that. Last time I taught it previous to this year. And this is The Liberation of Jerusalem by Torquato Tasso, an epic poem, 16th century epic poem written in Italian that I've taught a couple of times. And it is so, so good. I'm a big epic poetry guy. I love the stuff. And I've read a lot of the tradition that doesn't get read and that kind of gets skipped over and things like this. And this is one of those pieces that was an absolute mainstay of European education. It's said to have inspired more art than any other literary work apart from Shakespeare and the Bible. Um, and and a lot of Shakespeare is drawn from, he's one of the sources that Shakespeare would look to. So anyway, really, really wonderful epic poem about the First Crusade, the last days of the First Crusade, the taking of Jerusalem. But it really winds together all sorts of reflections on Christian knighthood. It's looking back to Dante and the Divine Comedy and drawing a lot of inspiration from that and anticipating things like The Tempest. It's just a really, really fun work. And if anyone is inspired to go look it up because you love epic poetry and want to see what I'm on about, The Liberation of Jerusalem, the edition to get is a translation by Max Wickert, Wickert. It is so faithful to the Italian. He really captures he matches the meter, he captures the feel of the Italian really, really well. And it's a literary masterpiece in its own right, just the English translation, much less as a work of translation. So that's my number three.
Excellent. Excellent. Mine is also a reread, but it's been a long time since I read it, and I'm glad I did. I think it was the right time to reread it. Attack Upon Christendom by Soren Kierkegaard.
Mm,
Um, for those unfamiliar with his life, Soren Kierkegaard was a Danish philosopher, 18th century, 19th century, um, and he was raised in Denmark in the Danish state church, which is Lutheran. And as an Anglican, I feel like I can relate to some of his angst about the state church.
mm,
So what kind of spurs this attack upon Christendom is that one of the bishops in the Lutheran state church died, and
mm.
his would-be successor, in his eulogy, described this man as a great truth teller. And Kierkegaard was like, "You can say a lot of things about ministers in state churches, good guys, whatever, they do what they're supposed to do. They're effective agents of the state. Um, you can't call them truth tellers, though." And so
Yeah.
he writes this kind of very inflammatory article, and of course, a lot of the ministers and religious people, in the country didn't take too kindly to this, and so they started defending this man, and Kierkegaard was kind of like, well, the whole point is that we're not maintaining New Testament religion. If anything, what the New Testament says about Christianity and what we practice are diametric opposites.
Mm,
And so I think it's a really interesting book. Um, there is, I think, in our post-Christian world, a certain anxiety among people of faith to go back to a time when we had things like state churches, or you see this impulse, I think, in certain like kind of Christian nationalist circles or whatever. Um, a kind of cultural Christianity is what they want to bring back, and I think Kierkegaard's just right that that's really not the solution at all. That's a great way to cheapen the gospel. It's a great way to make faith inauthentic. Um, yeah, you have a veneer of security because everybody is Christian, but like nobody is Christian really.
mm,
And so it's a challenging book, because I mean, it made me ask some really important questions of myself, and I'm not even sure I'm done kind of with that self reflection based on that.
mm,
But it
mm,
is important. I mean, um, yeah. So, anyways, so yeah, Attack Upon Christendom by Soren Kierkegaard, great book,
mm,
and
mm.
like most things he wrote, very spicy.
Classic. All right. Number two, penultimate on my list. And I'm going to do a lot of cheating for these last two ones in that I'm going to pick two series instead of two books for my last
Okay.
two picks. But if I didn't do that, it would have filled up my entire list, and that would have been a shame.
The judges say it's allowed, so
Great, great, glad to hear it. So on the strength of that, number two, The Lord of the Rings. We programmed Lord of the Rings for this current season of the Classical Mind. We last summer when we were hanging out at your house, because I have been saying for a couple of years now I need to reread those books. I think I'd only read them one time before this, and I read them fairly late in the game. As a lover of fantasy, I read everything else before coming to Lord of the Rings, and that was an interesting experience. And so I was really eager to get into them. And so once we programmed them, I suddenly became concerned that it would take longer than I thought to get through them, and I'd better get a head start on them. And so I did. And so now I finished several months early, which is fine. But really, really enjoyed reading them through. It's as someone who has seen the movies multiple times since I last read the books. It was really, really great to get back into the books, and to read the books with the benefit of everything I've learned in the last 20 years since I last read the books, almost, and all of that sort of a thing. And yeah, just, um, I don't always agree with what people like about The Lord of the Rings, but I think I absolutely agree that people are right to love The Lord of the Rings and to hold it up as just a wonderful achievement. And I really greatly enjoyed my experience of reading them again.
I'll be very interested to hear why people love them wrongly later.
Yep.
I love it. Love it. Okay, my penultimate pick is a modern book, Everything Sad is Untrue by Daniel Neri.
Look at that
Uh,
relationship between your book and mine.
there you go. Um, and yeah, it's a memoir. The author was raised for at least the first part of his life in Iran, and
Mm,
then his mom became a born again evangelical Christian, and so she had to leave the country and took him and his sister with her to Oklahoma of all places when they
mm,
relocated here. But his father stayed. His father wasn't really a Christian, didn't really convert with the mom, and so it was kind of a weird family dynamic. And but the
mm,
story is really the way he tells it, and just the whole um, structure of it is really beautiful and was highly impressive. I wasn't really sure what to expect when I picked it up, but I couldn't put it down. It was so good. It was so
mm.
good. So everything sad is untrue is my number two.
Right. Well, my number one. Well, this was a new read to me, and it's also a contemporary series, and so I don't only read old books. And it's a series that goes by the title The Daevabad Trilogy by S.A. Chakraborty, Chakraborty. And I'll get you the titles of the books in the series in a second. But what's very fun about these books is the setup is it's a world where genies are real and they have an entire, very well defined and tiered culture that exists alongside of the world that we know, which is set up during the what is it? I guess it's the British occupation of Egypt. And this our main character is born in the human world and in Cairo and stumbles upon the genie world, and then she becomes very central to everything that's happening there. And it's just really wonderfully done epic fantasy with the level of, fantasy can be so derivative and can be so tired, and this is just wildly imaginative. It really digs deep into the lore of genies as it exists in Arabic sources. So not the Western concept of genies, but the original understanding of what jinn are, and how that should be. And but she builds very, very compelling characters that have very interesting arcs, very deep interactions with one another, and I just couldn't put it down. Just blew through it. My wife's blowing through it now. The first book is City of Brass. It's City of Brass, Kingdom of Copper, and Empire of Gold. And yeah, I recommend the Daevabad trilogy very, very highly.
Those sound amazing. I'll have to add those to my list. Okay, my number one might be a surprise to listeners who have heard us talk about Nietzsche.
I was gonna say
Um,
it's gonna be Nietzsche, isn't it?
well,
Come on,
it's got
gotcha.
Nietzsche in it. So I took a class on Therese of Lisieux, who was a 19th century Roman Catholic saint, nun, Carmelite nun, and part of this class I came across a book or play called Nietzsche is My Brother by Bridget Edmond, she was a raised Lutheran and converted to Catholicism as an adult and became a Carmelite nun. And she also wrote a play. I think it was it Plato, Confucius, and Therese or something like that, where they're all dialoguing with each other.
These
But that
sound like the beginning of a joke,
that's
Plato,
right, Plato
Confucius,
is
and Teresa of Lisieux
walking a
walk into
bar.
a bar.
Yeah. Uh, Unfortunately, I think the manuscript of that other one is lost or was somewhere in a Carmelite convent somewhere. But anyways, but Nietzsche's My Brother is fascinating. It tells the story of Therese, who died young of tuberculosis. Um, and so it's kind of the first act. It's not even called acts. It's the movements, and
Mm,
each movement pairs with a movement from Mahler's 10th Symphony. So you're supposed to
mm,
play that if you go to see this performed. It's supposed to be playing for each movement. Um, and anyway, so the first movement, it's kind of following her life and Nietzsche's life, and they're kind of parallel. There's some thought that maybe they met each other once when Therese was very little. They stayed in
mm,
the same hotel or they were in the same area, so it's possible they may have walked by each other. Um, but anyways, but yeah, so then Therese dies and she starts appearing to Nietzsche and she starts engaging with him and he's, his very cynical self and unbelieving self and she's trying to get him to kind of embrace love and faith and all this and he's fighting her the whole time and the play ends very ambiguously. You don't quite know what Nietzsche chooses or rejects, but
Hmm.
she's always there offering him love as an option,
Mm.
and it totally baffles him. And it's a beautiful. I think it's a beautiful play. Our professor didn't like it very much. He is a little older and he kept saying that he didn't think it was very good, but I read it and thought it was great. So it's so good it was my favorite book of the year. So
Wow.
there we go. It's short. You could read it in a day. It's very, very quick read, but it's good. And so if you listen to the Nietzsche episode and you want to further understand my consternation with Nietzsche, this is a great play to kind of gear you up for that. So
Now, it's interesting that it's paired with Mahler's 10th Symphony because Mahler didn't finish the 10th Symphony. And so I wonder if that unfinished nature comes across in the play at all and
yes,
all of that sort of a thing.
it does. Yeah,
That's very fascinating.
it is. It is. So I don't know. I want you should read it, listeners. But if you have the ability to produce a version of this, I would be eternally grateful. We have St. John's College not very far from my church, and I'm trying to get some of the students who come to my parish to put it on through their little theater group that they have on campus. But I
Nice.
don't know. Yeah, it doesn't require a huge cast.
Yeah.
Just a Nietzsche, Therese, and a few other characters, and then somebody to press play on Mahler's 10th Symphony. So
I was gonna say, and a full symphonic orchestra.
that's right. Well, excellent. Well, I hope it was a good year of reading for you, Junius. I
It
felt like
was. I read a lot of fun things.
mine was weird because of school starting, so I had to kind of stop reading for fun, at least as much as I normally would. But it was still good. It was still good. So, looking forward very much to 2026, both in terms of reading and classes, but also the conversations that we'll get to have here on the Classical Mind. I think we've got some really good books picked for the remainder of this season, and so yeah, we'll see you back here next month to talk about Lilith.
I can't wait, man. Yeah, I agree. I'm very excited about all the books we have coming up. It's going to be a great year of conversations and yeah, some really fun guests coming in to talk with some of the books about us with us. So really looking forward to it.
Excellent, excellent. Well, listeners, be sure in the comments to tell us some of your favorite books of the year, and in the meantime, keep reading.